Yeah. We're across the street.
It's gonna take us a long time to retrieve.
Thank you. His sister lives
Ready?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Quiet, please. Back on the record on case 1357921, People versus Robert Bashara.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Lisa Lindsay on behalf of the state of Michigan.
And Ms. Your Honor, Robert Branson, prosecutor.
Mark Overlaying on behalf of the people, Your Honor.
Renee Cooper for Mr. Bashara. Mark Rashida for Mr. Bashara.
Nancy Shell for Mr. Bashara.
Are people ready to call the next witness?
Yes, we are, Your Honor. People call Paul Simona.
Sir, could you please give your name and spelling to the gentleman in the seat right there?
Paul Samona, Samona.
Please raise your right hand, sir. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Would you keep your voice up nice and loud for us to speak in the microphone? You can have a seat there. You may begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you please tell us your name?
My name is Paul Samona.
Mr. Simona, back in January of 2012, were you employed?
Yes,
Where were you working?
at Arts Liquor Plus.
Arts Liquor Plus?
Yes,
And where is Arts Liquor Plus?
14945 Kirchhoff,
Is that in Grosse Pointe Park?
Grosse Pointe Park.
And were you familiar with a man by the name of Joseph Gens?
Yes,
Was he a regular customer there?
yes,
I want to draw your attention specifically to January 26, 2012. Were you working on that day?
yes,
And around 11 o'clock, did Mr. Gens come into your store?
yes,
And did he ask you to cash a check?
yes,
Your Honor, at this time, I'm going to move to admit People's 89. There's a stipulation for submission.
Receive.
Thank you. I want to ask you to take a look at the screen in front of you. Do you recognize the image that's on the screen?
yes.
Okay, that's an image of People's 89. Can you tell us what we're looking at?
Yes.
What is it?
It's a check.
Is it the check that Mr. Gens gave you?
Yes.
And how do you know it's that check?
In the back of the, where he signed it, I put a mark on underneath the signature.
This piece that you say on the back. Identifies there.
Yes.
See that there's a signature at the image. That signature.
Yes.
You signed this check?
No, no. The bottom one is mine.
Can you go around the number and point to what you wrote on the check? The big one.
Go ahead. This is my rose right here.
You wrote,
Big Joe.
okay. You wrote what words?
Big Joe?
Okay. Big Joe, is that how you knew Mr. Gens?
Yes.
You knew him as Big Joe?
Yes.
And why did you write that on the check?
Just a sign for me in case the check returns or anything, so I know who it is.
So in case the check comes back, you wrote Big Joe, knowing who gave you that check,
Yes.
okay? And did you put anything else on it?
I put JJ next to it.
What is JJ?
JJ is a guy who was a friend of his.
Okay.
Used to hang around the area.
So another way of identifying the check in case it came back?
Yes.
And then there's a stamp on there as well. Did you put that stamp on there?
Yes.
Okay. And that stamp has the name of the business?
Yes.
And who signed the check?
Joe Gens signed it.
Okay. You can have a seat again. Do you recall, and I can draw your attention to the front of the check, how much the check was worth? Or
Yes.
for?
$452.
Okay. Did you deposit this check?
Yes.
Did you receive your money for it?
No.
Why not?
Because the check came back. It was returned.
The front of the check has a company name, the issuer of the check. Who's that from?
B&B Investment, LLC?
Had you ever cashed a check for Mr. Gens before?
No.
This was the only time you cashed a check for him?
Yes.
How much time was there between when you received the check from Mr. Gens and when you deposited it?
I deposited on the same day.
Same day?
Yes.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Cross-examine.
Just a little, Judge. Sir, I just have a few questions for you. If you don't understand them, let me know so I can rephrase the question. Is that fair?
Sure.
I see that you gave a statement to a member of the Grosse Pointe Park Department of Public Safety,
Yes.
your document, and it seems to be dated, no it doesn't, it seems to be dated on January 31st.
Yes.
Okay. Now, on Thursday morning, which was January 26th, that's the date that you and the officer were speaking of, is that correct?
No, that's the day I cashed the check.
That's the day you cashed the check?
Yes.
Okay. Did you notice that the check had a date on it of January 29th?
No.
Well, okay, so it's a post-dated check, and you were surprised that it came back a bad check?
It came back, it was NSF.
NSF, but it came back before the 29th.
I don't exactly know what day it came back.
Okay,
But
but
it
you
takes-
cashed it before the 29th.
Yes, I cashed it on 1/26.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Any redirect?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. You may step down.
Thank you.
Monroe, here. Sir, please give your name and spelling to the gentleman seated here.
Stephen Tabata. S-T-E-V-E-N, capital T-I-V-A-U-D-O.
Please raise your right hand, sir. You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please have a seat.
Thank you, Your Honor. Okey-doke.
May I inquire the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Thank you. Sir, would you tell me your name for the record, please?
Stephen Tabata,
Mr. Devato, how old are you for purpose of the record?
54.
And,
Oh, excuse me, 55.
55. Did you have a
Just
birthday
turned 50,
recently?
yeah, March.
March.
That's right, after you hit 50, you gotta be in denial.
What kind of work do you do, Mr. Devato?
Furniture, appliances, and I own a few real estate properties.
How long have you been in the furniture and appliance business, sir?
Oh, about 35 years.
Okay. And are you in the do you sell and service appliances that you sell?
Yes,
Okay. And do you know an individual by the name of Robert Bashara?
yes, I do.
Would you tell me where he is in the courtroom, please?
He's right there.
May the record reflect the witness identified the defendant, Robert Bashara.
So noted.
Now, do you know Mr. Bashara through your professional employment?
Yes, he stopped into my store, purchased appliances for his rental properties.
So you're aware in your employment that Mr. Bashara also has rental properties that he rents out, correct?
Correct.
And you in the past, you've had dealings with him professionally, correct?
Yes.
Would you characterize your relationship with Mr. Bashara as a friend relationship or professional?
No, strictly business. Although I've ran into him, you know, in bars around the neighborhood in Grosse Pointe Parks that my friends owned, and Bob, you know, rented from him.
So you have a professional relationship and you've seen him around, correct?
Yes.
In the course of your professional relationship, did you know approximately how many rental properties he had or where his properties were located, that sort of thing?
I knew he had some apartment buildings on Jefferson, and I knew he had one on Mack Avenue, and he had a couple houses, One was on Jefferson and one was on Guilford or thereabouts on the far east side of Detroit. I serviced those places for them.
So I guess it wouldn't be uncommon for you to actually have to make deliveries to those apartments, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, in any event, you know him, you're a business associate with him, and you see him from time to time hanging out on the east side, correct?
Correct.
Fair enough. I'm going to take you back in time, if I might, to the fall of 2011. In the fall of 2011, in September, October, in that time period, did you get a call from a friend of yours named Mr. Lawson?
Yes, Roy Lawson.
And is Roy Lawson a friend of yours?
Yes, I met him at the corner store. He has dogs, and I have a dog that's similar to his dog. So we struck up a conversation, and over the years he had gifted me like dog cages and a couple leashes.
Okay, so you have a common interest in small dogs?
Yes.
Okay. And was Roy Lawson also in the rental business, if you know?
No, not to my knowledge.
Okay. So you get a call from Mr. Lawson. Now, was that concerning another individual?
Yes, he said he had a friend that was having a problem, and he needed to move out of a building.
And the friend that was having a problem, did he identify who that was?
No, not at that time, but he just mentioned he was living in an apartment building on Jefferson.
And why would he call you?
Just because he knows I have a appliance store, and I might be able to get a guy some work or to purchase his furniture that he had to get out of the apartment.
And did you offer to help Mr. Lawson's friend?
I told Roy as a favor to him I would go and see in regards to the furniture that he had.
And did you do that?
Yes.
And where did you go to, sir?
Well, first they came to my house. Roy
When you said that, who were you talking about?
Roy and Joe.
Okay. Now, so Roy comes to your house, correct?
Yeah, he came in through my garage. My garage door was open. My garage is attached to the house. He knocked on the door, and I said, "Oh, come on in, Roy." And then he had a gentleman behind him, which I looked at the guy, and I go, "Oh, that's Joe."
Now, had you ever met that person before?
Yes, Joe.
What is that person's name?
Joe Gens?
Okay. And so Joe Gens is now in your house with Roy Lawson.
Correct.
And how did you know Mr. Gens from before that day?
My wife's cousin, he worked for his pizzeria, and they had sent him to me years ago to see if he could help me out because they couldn't deal with him no more.
So is this Joe Gens the person that Roy was asking you to help?
Yes.
Okay. So they come to your house, you have a conversation in your house that day, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes.
And what time period are we talking about now, Mr. Bottom?
Time of day or the time of...
What year was it?
It was September, October, somewhere in there.
Of 2011?
2011, correct.
Okay. How long was Mr. Lawson and Mr. Gens in your house that day?
Oh, not long, maybe about 10, 15 minutes.
Did you make plans to see them after that?
Yes.
Okay. What were the plans?
To go by and look at the furniture.
Mr. Gens' furniture?
Yes.
Okay. And did you do that?
Yeah, but I kind of thought that Bob owned that building over there.
Which building?
The one
Joe-
that he was being evicted from.
Okay. What made you think that Mr. Bashara owned the property that Joe Gens?
Oh, because we did deliveries over there in that area for him, and I just thought it was maybe Bob owned the building, he was being evicted. So I said, maybe I can talk to the owner, because Joe was under a lot of stress in regards of moving out of there, and I said, maybe he'll give you a couple extra days as a favor to me.
Was that a conversation that you had in your house?
No,
Was it before they came to your house?
no, that conversation there was at my house that day.
Okay. And after you had that conversation with Mr. Lawson and Mr. Gens, did you call someone else?
Yeah, I called Bob to ask him if he owned the building over there.
Now, just so we're clear, Mr. Devato, you can refer to the defendant however you wish. You may call him Bob, defendant. Every time I refer to him, I'm going to call him Mr. Lawson, the defendant, okay? It's just,
Oh, this would be Bob.
this is Mr. Bashara.
Yeah, I called Bob.
Right. I'm going to call him Mr. Bashara or the defendant, okay?
Okay,
So you called the defendant,
yes.
okay? And did you tell the defendant about the conversation you had with Mr. Lawson and Mr. Gens about Mr. Gens being evicted?
Yes,
Now, was the reason you called him because you believe that Mr. Bashara was the owner of the house that Mr. Gens was being evicted from.
Yes, the apartment building.
And were you calling for the purpose of asking for a little bit of grace period or some accommodation?
Yes,
Okay. Did you have a conversation with Mr. Bashara on the phone?
yes.
Okay. Tell me what happened.
He said he didn't own that building.
Okay. What did you do then?
I said, wow, this guy's being evicted. I said, maybe you take him and put him in one of your buildings. He's a handyman, he's looking for work, and I think the state sends a check, so, you know, it might be to your advantage of taking him and putting him in one of your buildings.
And what was Mr. Bashara's response to that?
He said, yeah, give him my number.
Okay. And did you provide Mr. Gens, Mr. Bashara's phone number?
Yes,
And that was in the fall of 2011?
yes.
Okay. After that conversation with Mr. Bashara, did you then have other conversations with Mr. Gens or Mr. Lawson?
Joe stopped in to my store, and he said, thank you for hooking him up with Bob.
Okay. And did you give Mr. Gens his phone number?
Yeah, I believe I gave him his number.
Okay, very good. And did Mr. Gens ever tell you that he called and talked to Mr. Bashara?
Yeah, he came to my store and he thanked me for hooking him up with Bob.
Okay, all right. Now, at some point, you said you went and looked at some furniture of Mr. Gens's, is that right?
Yes.
And did you go to his house to do that?
Yeah, I went to the apartment on Jefferson there, the Eagle Point Apartments.
Did you look at the furniture?
Yes.
And you're not buying any of it?
No, but we helped him move it because they were going to put it out, and the weather was turning. It was towards, I believe, end of September, October, the weather was turning. So we brought the furniture over to Roy's house, which was about a half a mile away.
Now, other than that the conversation you had with Mr. Bashara about Mr. Gens, did you have any other conversations in the fall of 2011 relating to Mr. Gens with Mr. Bashara? Talk to him again about Joe Gens.
Mr. Bashara?
Yes.
No.
Okay. Did you have any other conversations with Mr. Bashara in the fall of 2011 not relating to Mr. Gens?
Well, this was before the thing arose with Joe and Roy. Bob had stopped into my store, and I think it was in like August, and he asked me if we could talk in private. And I says, well, this is private here. I said, there's no, he goes, no, I want to talk to you in private. And he took me outside in the back of the building, and he asked for a problem. Well, he put his hands on my shoulders and he started saying, I trust you. He says, what do you need? I trust you. He's pressing down hard. I go, what do you need? And he goes, can I trust you? I go, Bob, what do you need? He says, I have this tenant that's making my life hell, and you know anybody that'll take care of her. And then when he said that, the hair in the back of my neck got up, and I'm thinking, I don't know what this guy's talking about. He goes, I want you to have her run over or T-boned. And I just looked at him and I go, I got 2 cop buddies that'll take care of it for you. And he pushed me away and he told me, what are you effing crazy? And I just looked at his eyes thinking he wasn't doing too good, and he might be a little bit crazy, you know.
How did you end the conversation with Mr. Bashara that day?
That was it. Walked away.
Did he ever ask you again about hiring someone to run someone over or T-bone someone?
No.
Move forward to the month of November 2011. Did you have any conversations with Mr. Bashara who was asking you to have?
Yeah, he called me, and he said that his guys had not originally begun to me if I would get him. Because the guy says, had thrown out a refrigerator and the insulin was in there, and one of his tenants, an elderly woman, needed her insulin. I told him, well, maybe you should talk to the doctor, maybe he can write her a script.
And how many times did he call asking for you to help him with some insulin?
He might have called a couple times in regards to that.
And did you ever give him any insulin, Mr. Devine?
No,
Now, after that conversation, those conversations, I'm sorry, in November of 2011, did you have any other contact with Mr. Bashara before January of 2012?
no, I went in the hospital.
Okay.
I was having stomach issues.
In January 2012, do you learn something happens to his wife?
Yes,
His wife was murdered?
yeah, I found out on that Friday.
How did you find out?
Well, it was, my wife had mentioned somebody was murdered and thrown in a SUV in the alley, and I told her I didn't want to hear about that stuff, because, you know, living in Detroit all my life and hearing all this nightmares, I just told her I didn't want to hear about it. And as a matter of fact, that night I went to the Hard Luck on Thursday, because they were having a closing party, and I didn't even know that it was Mr. Bashara's wife, Jane, that had been murdered until Friday.
At some point in time, did you learn when the suspect's name was Joseph Gans?
Yeah, I was watching the television, and I believe they held up a leather jacket. It was a two-tone black leather, and I go, no, it looks like Joe's jacket. And then they said, we only know his name is Joe. So I kind of said, you know, the hair on the back of my neck stood up again. I don't know, it's just craziness.
Now, I want to fast forward, after we learned about the death of Mrs. Bashara, I want to fast forward to June of 2012.
Mm-hmm.
You said you had some health issues around the turn of the new year, correct?
Yes,
Was that reducing your work schedule, that sort of thing?
yes, the month of December.
Now, in June of 2012, did the defendant reach out to you again and try to contact you?
Yeah, he had been trying to get a hold of me.
What do you mean he was trying to hold you?
He was calling my store and coming down to my store looking for me.
And when he was looking for you at the store, were you not there at the time?
No,
How did you know he was looking for you? Did you get messages?
messages,
Did he call for you at the store?
yes,
At that time, did he have your cell number?
no.
Okay. After him calling, how many times did he try to look for you at the store, do you know?
Quite a few.
Can you quantify?
I have no idea, really.
Okay, more than 3, 4, 5?
Oh, yes. Every time he called, we called Wayne County. We called Detective Matuk or Detective Corey Williams to let him know.
Why were you calling the detectives and letting them know that Mr. Bashara was trying to call you?
Because they said if he comes by, let us know.
Okay. So in June, sometimes he starts coming by, he's calling, he's trying to get a hold of you. At some point in time, do you return those calls?
Yeah, after a while, I just couldn't take it anymore. I didn't know what was on Mr. Bashara's mind.
And was it about the middle of June when you returned his call?
Yeah, I returned his call.
And do you remember about the date that was, sir?
Yeah, it was probably around second, third week in June.
And when you returned his call, was that on your cell phone or the line in your store?
No, it was on the line of my store.
And did you have a conversation with someone you know to be Mr. Bashara?
Yes.
Tell me about that conversation.
He told me that the refrigerators I sold him, which he didn't finish paying for in December, one of them didn't work, and he was holding a $502 check, and he told me that I needed to come and see him and bring him another refrigerator, and he would write me a check.
Did you discuss anything else on the phone in that call?
No, that was just to go to his property over on 11 and a half in Jefferson with the refrigerator.
And did you make arrangements to do that?
Yes.
And did you go to that location, 11 and a half in Jefferson, with the new refrigerator?
Yeah, I brought him another refrigerator.
And did you have contact with Mr. Bashara?
Yes.
On that day? Did you deliver the refrigerator?
Yep, and I picked up one that didn't belong to me, that he said it was mine.
Okay, why'd you take the one that didn't belong to you?
Well, because I just took it out of there and delivered him one. I didn't want anything to, go amiss.
When you went there to take that refrigerator, did Mr. Bashara talk to you about some other things you wanted done?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. Was this conversation recorded?
Yes, it was. That's why I took the other refrigerator.
Where did you get the recording device for this conversation?
It was in my left hip pocket.
Who gave it to you?
Somebody with the state police.
And where did the conversation between you and Mr. Bashara take place?
Well, it was outside and then into his basement, into an area where he had the one refrigerator that said belonged to me.
So you go downstairs, you see a refrigerator, it doesn't belong to you, but you take it back anyway, right?
Right,
You give him the new refrigerator, correct?
right.
Did he give you money for that?
No, he'd given me a check
Okay.
for the 502 that he owed me the balance on the other refrigerators.
I want to talk to you about the conversation he had with you. Was that in the basement?
Yes, it was.
Was anyone else present for the conversation
No.
besides you and Mr. Bashara?
No, sir.
Tell me what he said in that conversation.
He said that he was having problems with Mr. Gentz in a competency hearing, and if they find him competent, it would be his life. And he wanted to know if I could have something done with Mr. Gentz.
What'd you tell him?
I told him, hey, you can get to anybody for the right price.
And this conversation was recorded.
Yes, sir.
Did you agree to help Mr. Bashara hire someone to get to Mr. Gantz?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, that was done about the 18th of June of 2012.
I believe the exact date was the 19th.
19th. Did you, at that point, set up a meeting to meet Mr. Bashara again?
Yes.
When was that going to take place?
He was going to stop by the store.
Your store?
Yes, sir.
And did he?
Yes, he stopped by with some spinach pies and some Aquafina water.
And what day was that, sir?
Let's see, it had to be the next day or so.
About the 19th or so? 18th, 19th?
19th, 20th.
Okay. And at that time when he stopped by, did you have a recording device for your conversations?
Yes.
And was it a different device than the one you had?
Yes, it was.
And did you record the conversation you had between yourself and Mr. Bashara?
Yes, I did.
And did he ask you to do something in that conversation?
Yes.
What did he ask you to do?
He wanted to know if Joe could be taken out.
And by taking out, he meant killed?
Kill him, yeah.
What did you tell him?
Yeah, I told him anybody you can get to, if the price is right.
And what was his reaction when you told him that?
He says, you think you can do it? I says, I don't know, man. Try our best.
Now, how would you describe his behavior when you're having these conversations, his mannerisms?
Very concerned.
What do you mean?
He wanted this done badly.
Physically, how did he appear to you?
Kind of beaten down, broken down.
Did he physically look different to you than he looked?
Yeah, he needed to shave and be cleaned up. He looked like he hadn't been sleeping.
And you talked about his physical appearance on these conversations, correct?
I believe I did in the second one and the third one.
Now, at any point during this conversation, did he ask you if you were wearing a wire?
Yes, he patted me down twice. He patted me down on the time I met him on Jefferson, and I had a couple pistols on me. And he looked at my pistols, and then he patted me down again at the store. And I told him I wasn't wearing a wire. I told him it was against my religion to wear a wire, because I'm Sicilian.
Now, Mr. Tabato, after the second meeting that takes place at your store, did you tell Mr. Bashara to get some money together and come back and see you?
Yes,
And did he agree to do that?
yes,
And how much did you tell him this would cost?
$20,000,
Did he agree to give you a down payment of that?
yes,
And was there a third meeting that took place on or about the 25th of June?
yes,
And where did that meeting take place?
at my store again.
And was anyone else present besides you and Mr. Bashara?
Yeah, there was somebody else there, but he wasn't really watching what was going on. He was too busy using the phone, because Bob was trying to scroll my phones.
Now, these two meetings that you had at your store on the 25th and a couple days before, do you know if there were photographs being taken of your meetings?
Well, there's supposed to be photograph, video, and recording devices put inside my store.
On the 25th, when you had this conversation with Mr. Bashara, were you wearing a recording device?
Yes,
Did he, at the 25th, did he ask if you were wearing a wire again?
yes,
Did he pat you down?
yeah.
Did you do something with your clothes on the 25th?
I stripped so so he'd look and see there wasn't a wire on me.
You stripped your clothes?
Yes,
You showed Mr. Bashara you weren't wearing a wire?
right.
What type of recording device did you have on you that day?
It was a remote,
Like a car remote?
yes,
And where was that remote?
in my top pocket.
So when you stripped to show your body, you didn't have wires on it, you still had the remote in your pocket, correct?
Yes.
Was there some concern by Mr. Bashara about some tape you had on your person?
Oh, yeah, I had some tape from being at the doctor's office. Because I was having problems with my lungs while I was doing this.
Now, during this conversation on the 25th, did Mr. Bashara again say he wanted to have Mr. Gans killed?
Yeah.
Did he pay you any money?
Yeah, he gave me $2,000 down in $100 bills.
Did the conversation take place inside and outside the store?
Yes.
Can you explain that to me? Why did that happen that way?
Well, he was giving me the money and he wanted a receipt, so I wrote him a receipt inside the store. And I wrote him a receipt for $2,000 down and 6 appliances and $18,000 balance. And I said, here, Bob, sign it. He didn't want to sign it. He threw it back at me. And then my phone kept on ringing, so I didn't know who was doing that, but apparently it was Eddie, the guy who works with me. He kept on ringing the phone because Bob was scrolling one of the handsets. So I ripped that one up and just wrote him a different receipt
What, you wrote a second receipt, what was that for?
for some refrigerators and stoves.
Did you and Mr. Bashara come to an agreement about what you would call this hit? You had a code for it?
Yeah, if there was a broken refrigerator.
Did you tell me how that worked out? What did you tell him?
He was supposed to call up and bitch about the refrigerator being broken, and I knew it was on.
So when Mr. Bashara complained about a refrigerator being broken, he was actually telling you to do the hit or the murder of Mr. Gens?
Right.
Okay. Did you write him another receipt that day?
Yeah, I wrote another receipt.
For how much?
I think I just put down $2,000 down.
Is that the amount of money that he gave you that day?
Yes.
You told us that these, in addition to recording, there was some photographs that were taken, correct?
Yes.
You may.
I'm going to hand you People's Exhibits 75 and 76, which I think will be admitted by stipulation.
It will. Proceed.
No.
Do you recognize those photos, Mr. Body?
Yes, sir.
And are those photographs of, one photograph of Mr. Bashara and one photograph of Mr. Gens? I'm sorry, of your Mr. Devato and Mr. Bashara?
There's one of me and Bob, which is 76, showing the back of my building, Bob's vehicle, and one of my vehicles. And there's another one of Bob getting into his vehicle.
Did Mr. Bashara tell you why he wanted his Mr. Gens killed?
We said it was his life. He says if they find Joe Gens competent to stand trial, then it was all over for him. He says if you're wearing a wire, just shoot me now. So that was it.
Now, you indicated that the last conversation you had on the 25th was recorded. Your Honor, I moved to amend this time People's Exhibit number 73, which is that recording, a portion thereof, and I play it for the court.
Any objection? No, you. Proceed.
You know what, Bob? I don't know, Bob. I feel sorry for your plight and everything, man. I don't know. I feel bad because of Joe. I tried to help Joe because he was being evicted, and I thought that was your building. That's why I called you. I would have never called you if I didn't know if it was your building.
If I knew was as bad as he was, I never would have involved myself.
Did you have a couple drinks this weekend? You look a little more relaxed, man.
Excuse
All
me.
right. What? Money.
Good, I'm glad you got some. You hadn't talked to these guys, you guys saw him 2 or 3 times in your phone, Deborah Duke's number. Why is
I told you now. Listen to me.
why is he calling himself?
Listen to me.
Why does he have your cell phone number?
You know why? I'm gonna tell you why. When the cocksuckers came here the first time, I think I locked it in my fucking phone, okay? But I swear, when he called me, the guy, I never talked to the guy. I was inside the fucking doctor's office with the all swollen up. He called my doctor's office. I came in here, they put me right on the EKG. They thought I had congestive heart shit. What? What the fuck's the matter with you? Why do you always put me in this fucking position? You know what? Let me tell you something. The other day, you put me in an asthma attack, all right? Because you came in here and you said, you know, you start talking all crazy shit. You look like you got some medication or you're coming down. The other day, you looked like you hadn't showered and shit for a week.
Oh, bullshit, I look all right. What are you talking about?
You look terrible.
Okay.
You look like you were a walking fucking zombie. Listen to me. I told you. I drew and tried. I got a cousin.
Yes or no? 80%, 90%?
Yes. Hey. Two.
That's 2 weeks, I'll come for this.
Mr. Bono, is that the conversation you have with Mr. Bashara?
Yeah, that's when he's paying me the money.
You hear the shuffling sound, is that the money being counted?
Yeah, that's how I count money.
And I hear you say 2, does that mean what?
2,000.
At the very beginning of that conversation, there was a discussion about someone named Tim Matuk. Tell me what that was about.
Yeah, Detective Matuk. I had put his phone number in my cell phone when they stopped by earlier in the year because they were investigating, the murder. He stopped by my place of business. He gave me his card and he said, take my number and put it in your phone, and if Bob comes by here, give us a call. I said, okay. So I put his phone number in my phone, and then Bob came back in on me on the second meeting I had with him, and he wanted to know who I was on the phone with. And I'd waited a few minutes because I kind of felt he was coming back, and he came back about 10 minutes after he had left. And I was supposed to drop the wire off to the FBI agent, so I had the FBI agent on the phone, on the dial, and Bob came walking back in, the back door, and I didn't notice him through my monitor, and he said, who the fuck you on the phone with? And I looked up and I said, holy shit. I said, I'm talking to a girl here trying to set up something for tonight, which I wasn't, I was just dropping tapes off. But then he came over and he wanted to see my phone. So instead of handing him my business phone, I handed him my cell phone, and he started scrolling it. And he seen that Detective Matuk had called me, and he started screaming like a banshee, saying, "Oh, what's this Matuk down here?" I said, "No, that's Timmy Matrazak." I kept on referring to another friend I got down on my phone as Timmy Matt, which is Matrazak. He goes, "No, this is Tim Matuk." I says, "I didn't talk to the guy." I says, when was it? Yesterday at 5 o'clock, I was in the doctor's office. I said, I left my phone in the car. I says, I came out, I looked at my phone, and I hit the button, and it went to voicemail, and I didn't talk to, I said, so I don't know what you're talking about, but he thought I was talking to Detective Matuk.
So even the next time he comes back, when the third conversation, he's still talking about effective.
Well, he started scrolling my cell phone, or my business phones, handsets. He got his hand on a handset. And the guy who works for me was calling the phone, so he couldn't scroll the other phone, the other handset. So he kept on calling the phone while we was writing out a receipt, which Bob threw it back and he didn't want to sign it. While he was paying me the money. That was on the 25th.
You gave him the receipt, he left.
Yes.
You subsequently learned that he was arrested and charged with solicitation.
Yeah, I heard that they picked him up that evening. After, I don't know if he left my store or whatever, but they picked him up on Mack Avenue.
Now, as a witness in this case, did you subsequently learn in October of that same year, 2012, that he pleaded guilty to solicitation?
Yes.
At this time, I would move to the People's Exhibit number 55, which is a video recording of Mr. Bashara's admissions.
Proceed.
Permission to publish?
Yes.
Go ahead.
After the meeting and consulting with my attorney, we have decided to read the following statement. In June of 2012, I foolishly and regrettably offered to pay Steve Tabatato to find someone to kill Joseph Getz. This took place in Wayne County.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions. This witness, Your Honor.
Cross-examine. We have nothing to add. Thank you, sir. You may step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Sir, please give your name and spelling to the Please raise your right hand, sir. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you?
Put the microphone in front of you.
Point him out and tell me who he's swearing. Indicate for the record the witness identifies the person under the
Bob,
did you ever call him, refer to him as Big Bob?
yeah,
How
Danny Phillips, about 4 years,
okay, what beginning of what year do you recall?
2007,
2007. And when you were a tenant of Mr. Bashara's, did you come to know him and begin making small talk with him?
yes,
And eventually, did you two strike up a sort of a relationship?
yes,
Okay. Would you say you became more or less like friends?
yes, in a way,
Okay. And during your many conversations with Mr. Bashara, had you ever told him about your past?
yes, 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 yes.
Now, did there ever come a point in time when you introduced him to some people?
Yes, yes, yes,
And did you have, were you living near Highland Park?
yes,
And was Ms. Jane Smith living there with you at some point in time?
Yes.
Was there a landline in the house?
Yes. Yes.
When you introduced Mr. Bashara to both Mr. Bradford and Mr. Smith, you introduced them for a certain purpose.
Yes.
And what was the purpose you introduced them? Okay. And did you accompany Mr. Bashara to purchase any cocaine?
Yes.
Okay. Now, back in 2012, after Mr. Bashara's wife had been murdered, did you have phone contact with Mr. Bashara?
Yes.
Which phones did you have contact with him on?
I believe the cell phone.
The cell phone first? Did you also have contact with him on the landline?
Yes.
And were those phones used to hook him up with cocaine?
Yes.
At some point in time, after the death of Miss Jane Bashara, did you call any tips? Did you call in any tips concerning the case?
Yes.
And did you give some information about people other than Joseph Gentz?
Yes.
Though that information was not true, is that correct?
Right.
Did Mr. Bashara at any point ever offer you or give you money for those tips?
One time.
Okay. Initially, when you talked to the police about calling in the false tips, you initially denied calling the false tips, is that correct?
Right.
And why was it that you did that?
Just got tired.
Got tired?
I really wanted to
You didn't want to be involved?
do it. Right.
In addition to having phone contact with Mr. Bashara, did you have phone contact with his investigators?
Yes.
Somebody by the name of J.D.?
Yes.
And at some point in time, did Mr. Bashara take you down to David Grimm's office?
Yes.
Could you tell me approximately when did that happen?
It was last year in the summertime.
Last year in the summertime. And why did Mr. Bashara say he was taking you down to David Grimm's office?
We talked to him about the case and what he was concerned about the information.
About the false tip?
Right.
And when did Mr. Bashara want you to sign a statement about that?
Yes.
You didn't sign a statement concerning that?
No.
Were you offered any money by either Mr. Bashara or J.D. to make a false statement?
No.
Mr. J.D. didn't offer you money?
No.
He didn't tell you he was going to give you money and then didn't give it to you?
Bob Bashara offered J.D.
Now, I'm going to take you directly, specifically to a date in June. Did you have phone contact with Mr. Bashara?
Yes.
Did he call you?
Yes.
And what did he tell you he wanted to do over the phone?
I can't recall.
Did he meet you someplace? At a
Yes, yes, at the Vallejo gas station.
At a Valero gas station where? Located where?
On Woodward 6 Mile.
And what was the purpose of Mr. Bashara meeting you at that Valero gas station on Woodward and 6 Mile?
Talk about what was going on.
And also, was it to purchase some cocaine?
Yes.
When you saw Mr. Bashara, how did he appear to you?
You feel fine at first.
At first? Well, tell me what happened.
We was just discussing what was happening with his life, what was going on.
Before that, did he ever do something with your body? Did he ever pat you down?
Yeah.
Tell me about that. I need you to tell me what happened.
He patted me down and said if I had a wire or something.
He patted you down and he said, did he ask you were you wearing a wire?
Yeah.
And how did he look when he was asking you this?
He was looking strange.
Okay. And did you give him did you get some cocaine for him?
Yeah.
And did he ingest that cocaine?
Yeah.
And how was he looking and acting then?
Strange.
At some point, did he begin to cry?
Yeah.
What was it that he told you at that point in time?
That he had something to do with his wife being murdered.
What did he say?
He said I had killed my wife.
Did he tell you he did it or that Joe did it?
I had Joe did it.
He told you he had Joe
Right.
kill his wife,
Yeah.
and he was crying.
Yeah.
And did you ask him why, or did he say why he did it?
Asked him what happened. He was talking about going through divorce and so forth.
Did he say something about going through a divorce would be like losing money?
Yeah.
Do you recall exactly what he said?
He said I can lose a lot behind this in my life, and I
He-
can't lose everything.
He said he can't lose anything. Did he tell you why he was telling you this?
He felt comfortable telling.
Okay. Did he say specifically why? Did he say he felt comfortable because you had told him about your past?
Yeah.
Specifically when he talked about going through a divorce, did he say he didn't want to do it, but he had to do it because going through a divorce was like losing money?
Yeah.
And what was your reaction at this point in time?
Wow.
Did he take you to see Mr. Grimm before or after this happened?
After.
And after he told you about having Joe Gentz do this hit, did you tell him, you know they're going to come after you now?
Yes.
And what did he say he needed you to do to help him?
To help him out any way I can.
And what did he want you to do specifically?
To give up some documentation to the police or whatever.
Some
Information.
documentation.
Like an affidavit.
He wanted you to sign an affidavit.
Right.
And what did he want you to put in the affidavit?
That 2 other people was involved in the murder.
And what 2 other people did he want you to implicate?
April Montgomery and Charles Wilson.
And April Montgomery, who was she to you?
My ex.
Your ex-girlfriend? And when you were a tenant of Mr. Bashara's, was April Montgomery, was her name on the lease?
Yeah.
Okay. Was her name on the lease by itself, or her name and your name?
No, her name.
Her name alone was on the lease. And she owed him money, is that correct?
Yeah.
And he wanted you to say specifically what?
About Charles Wilson and April Montgomery plotting to have him killed in his life.
Did you ever sign that affidavit?
No.
Did you ever call Mr. Bashara and leave any phone messages saying, talking about the April Montgomery situation?
Yes, one time I did.
Okay. Now, you never did, after Mr. Bashara asked you to write a statement, you never did write that statement out,
No.
did you? And initially, when you came in, the police, did you come to the police or did the police find you?
Police found me.
And initially, when the police found you, did you talk to them a little bit?
Yes.
And then after you talked to them a little bit, did you ask to be read your rights? You said you weren't going to say anything else without your rights being read to you. Is that correct?
Correct.
And initially, when you first talked to the police, did you tell them everything you knew?
No, I didn't want to get involved with it.
And were you confronted with your phone records? Were you shown with your phone records?
Yes.
And after you were shown your phone records, you gave it up?
Yes.
Nothing further of this witness.
Cross-examine.
Good afternoon, Mr. Monroe.
Hang on.
Good. Mr. Monroe, so it is your testimony that you filled out or you've signed at least 2 different statements with regard to your dealings with Mr. Bashara?
Yeah, 1 or 2.
I'm sorry?
1.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Sir, I'm going to hand you a document, ask if you can identify what this is.
Witness statement.
Okay. And that has your signature at the bottom,
Yeah.
does it not?
For the record, can we have this? For the record, no, but for the record, we have to have on the record what specifically the time and the date, so we know what was referred to.
We can have him do that.
Okay.
You said you only gave one statement though, correct?
No, he said one or two.
What is the date on that statement, sir?
7/10/13.
And your signature appears at the bottom of that first page?
Right.
Your signature also appears at the bottom of the second page, correct?
Yeah.
May I have that? Mr. Monroe, did you review this statement prior to your testimony today?
Yeah.
Finding anything in here that was inaccurate?
Can I read it again?
Sure.
Exactly. A sign exactly.
I'm sorry, sir?
A sign is exactly.
Well, you made sure it was accurate before you signed it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you're not, is it your testimony, you're not sure whether you gave another statement other than this?
I gave one or two statements. It's been so long ago, it's kind of hard to really.
Well, we know for certain this is one of them, right?
Right, that's one of them.
And it's your testimony, you don't recall whether you gave another statement?
I gave another statement.
I'm sorry?
I gave more than one statement.
Okay, so this one dated, July 10th, 2013. Do you recall the one you just read over? Is that your first statement?
No, I don't recall whether it's my first or second statement.
Okay. In that statement, you talked, well, let me take a step back. You talked about making a purchase of cocaine at some point for
I'm
Mr.
gonna object, if he's using, he said in that statement,
Well, and
if he's using it to, can I get my objection out? If he's using it to impeach, he has to specifically show what's in this statement, the one he's identified as 7/10/13 that deals with cocaine.
I'm not using it number one, he just read it number two, but I want to ask him specifically, I'm going away from the statement.
Okay,
So-
well then, can we have, because he started, his question started with, in this statement.
And
And then he started,
backed
now if
off.
he's, so I just don't want it to appear like he's acting like he's impeaching with this statement when he really isn't.
Sir, you gave some direct testimony when the prosecutor was asking you questions about some cocaine sales, correct?
Right.
And I believe your testimony was that you went with Mr. Bashara to purchase cocaine?
I went to purchase with him, I was already purchased.
Did you sell that cocaine to Mr. Bashara?
No,
Well, when you said it was already purchased, who did the purchasing?
I did.
And you gave cocaine to Mr. Bashara?
Yes.
Out of the kindness of your heart?
Sometimes people do that.
I'm sorry, sir?
Sometimes people do that.
How much did you pay for that cocaine, sir?
Objection, it's irrelevant, how much he paid for the cocaine,
I
why
think-
is that even relevant?
Your Honor, it goes to credibility, and I think that's always relevant. He just testified that he gave my client a gift of some cocaine for no reason. I'd like to find out how much he gave him and what the value of that gift was.
Why is that relevant?
Because it goes to his credibility.
How does that go to his credibility?
I'm trying to figure out why does that make it credible? I mean, if he's professing to be a, I don't know if he's a drug dealer or whatever the case may be, the credibility isn't real high as far as just anybody.
Okay, well, if you're accepting that, Judge, I'll be happy to accept that. I mean, if that's your assessment of his credibility or consideration, certainly.
More than one occasion. You take it for what it is.
That was on more than one occasion, sir?
Yes.
Now, I think you indicated to the prosecutor that you weren't actually a tenant of Mr. Bashara's, correct?
No, but I come out of stand, I think,
Well, let me ask you, when you were staying there with April Montgomery?
yeah,
And I think you've already testified that that is a former girlfriend?
yeah.
Okay. Now, at some point, according to your testimony, there's somebody else with Miss Montgomery? Is that what you told the court?
With some, yeah, yes indeed.
And who would that be, sir?
Charles Wilson,
And what relationship did he have with Miss Montgomery?
he started dating Miss Monroe.
When he started dating her, had you already moved out?
That was a long time ago.
No. But at the time he started dating Miss Montgomery, were you still living there?
No,
Where were you living then?
Objection is to relevance. If he wasn't living with her, why is it relevant? Where is he?
Sustain.
Thank you.
Well, you testified that you had several meetings with Mr. Bashara, correct?
correct.
At the time you had those meetings, were you a resident, whether your name was on the lease or not, in one of Mr. Bashara's properties?
I had my own apartment.
But it was not one of his apartments,
No,
correct?
sir.
You had a completely different landlord.
Right.
And can you give us at least the first time that you gave him cocaine? Can you give us some type of estimate as a time frame? What year? Let's start with that.
Last year.
In 2012.
Right.
Now can we narrow it to a season?
Around about April or May.
So sometime spring of 2012, April or May. And is it your testimony that Mr. Bashara contacted you or you contacted Mr. Bashara?
When?
The first time that you're buying him cocaine, sometime in the spring of 2012. Or you're, giving him cocaine.
Oh, wait a minute, I'm not sure if he said that was the first time. He said that was the last time that he gave him cocaine.
Was that, sir?
Repeat that?
When you gave Mr. Bashara cocaine in May or April of 2012,
Right.
was that the first time, the last time, sometime in between?
It was twice, so that had to be the last time.
When, okay. And you were not a tenant of his at that time?
No, not at that time, no.
And again, I'm going to ask you, did you call him or did he call you about this cocaine?
I can't recall, it's been too long. Can't recall that.
All right, were you having regular contact with Mr. Bashara at the time you gave him, at least the second time you gave him cocaine?
I had regular contact with Mr. Bashara.
I'm sorry?
I had regular contact with him.
Okay. And you don't remember, did you offer him the cocaine? Did he ask you for the cocaine?
Can't remember.
It just happened.
No, it just happened. One time, he asked me about it, another time, I offered it to him.
All right, and to your recollection, there were only 2 times, right?
Right.
How much cocaine are we talking about the first time?
It was about 50 grams.
I'm sorry, sir?
50 grams?
50? Did the 2 of you use that cocaine?
No,
Did you use any?
no.
You gave him 50, somehow, now again, you gave him 50 grams of cocaine?
Yes,
Sell it?
gave it to him.
Did he give you the money for it?
No,
You know what that 50 grams cost?
I'm just telling you about it.
Do you know what you recall what that 50 grams cost you?
Not that 50 grams, no.
Was there another time you gave him another 50 grams?
No,
Well, what'd you give him the second time?
it was a little package, it wasn't that much.
Well,
I didn't measure that off.
All right, so let me see if I got this straight. The second time, someone gives you a quantity of cocaine, correct?
Right.
Do you pay for that quantity of cocaine?
Sometimes.
Well, do you recall specifically that time, did you pay for it?
No.
So somebody gives you this cocaine free, correct?
Favors.
I'm sorry?
Favors.
So someone gives you this cocaine as a favor, right?
Right.
You say you didn't measure it out, but at least some of that cocaine you give to Bob Bashara, right?
That's not what his testimony was, I'm sorry. He said the second time, well, this other time, it was in a packet and he didn't measure that out.
Okay.
This other time was 50 grams.
Okay, the first time, do you recall the first time, 50 grams? Is that correct, sir?
Yeah.
Second time, you don't know how much, correct?
Right.
But somebody gives you a quantity of cocaine. Fair statement? Is that a yes, sir?
Yeah.
You said you didn't measure it out, but you gave it to Mr. Bashara, correct?
Right.
Another gift, correct?
Yeah.
And in that you didn't measure it out, you can't tell us about how much cocaine that was?
I wasn't really concerned about
That didn't concern you at all?
that. No.
Did you realize at the time that you were committing a felony?
It wasn't concerned about that.
I'm sorry, sir?
I wasn't concerned about that.
All right, and I'm asking you, did you realize that you were committing a felony?
Of course.
Okay. And you weren't concerned about it?
No.
Okay. Are you somewhat familiar with cocaine?
Yeah.
But you weren't using it either the first or second time when you gave it to Mr. Bashara, correct?
No.
That is correct. You were not using
No.
it. You're familiar with it, but you don't recall even a ballpark figure how much you gave him the second time?
Asked and answered 3 times, Mr. Proceed.
Well, I don't know if it was answered, Judge, but I'll move
He
along.
said he does not know how much it was. He wasn't concerned about it.
Now, the prosecutor asked you about telling Mr. Bashara of your past, correct?
Yeah.
And I think you indicated that you shared that with him readily?
Yeah.
Okay. Sir, I'm going to ask you specifically about your past. You've obviously been convicted of a felony involving theft or dishonesty, correct?
Yeah.
What was that, sir? And
In
when?
the last 10 years,
Right, within the last 10 years. And when?
In the last 10 years, it's been past that.
I'm sorry?
Since I had been convicted in a crime, it's been way past 10 years.
Okay. Now, sir, you also indicated at some point Mr. Bashara started using the cocaine right in front of you.
Right.
And he made some statements at that time, correct?
Right.
Do you recall whether that was the first time you provided him with cocaine or the second time?
Second time.
You recall where that took place?
On 7 Mile. About 6 Mile. Near the Valera gas station. There was.
So the two of you sat down, or you met him, right, at the Valero gas station.
Right.
You provide him with some cocaine, correct?
Right.
And that is, what are the cross streets there again?
Woodward and 6 Mile.
Woodward and 6 Mile, fairly busy at that intersection.
Yeah.
And is it your testimony that you then watched Mr. Bashara start using this cocaine right there?
No.
You went somewhere from the Valero gas
A few
station.
blocks from there.
Okay, where did you go?
I can't remember the street right
And are you in the same car with him?
now. Yeah.
Whose car?
Bob's
Okay, and you recall where he picked you up?
at the Valera gas station on 6 Mile Road.
Okay, that's where you first get into the car, correct?
Right.
And you go, according to your testimony, you go a few streets over and he starts using this cocaine.
Yeah, a few streets over.
How is he using the cocaine, sir?
Snorting.
From what?
From what?
Yes, from what? How is he, what did he use to start it?
Finger.
What kind of package of cocaine did you give him? I mean, was it plastic, paper?
Plastic, you put it on the car. That's it.
I'm sorry, sir?
Plastic, and you put the cocaine on the car.
What, on what part of the car, sir?
Car.
Card, okay. But you gave him a container of plastic with the cocaine in it,
Right.
correct? Okay, do you recall what kind of container that was?
Objection, Your Honor. What's the relevance of what kind of container? Really?
I think it's significant, Judge, again, I think it goes to this witness's credibility. If you can recall what kind of container his gift was in.
I think he's gotten pretty specific. I'll give you a little more leeway, but not much.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that, Judge. Again, sir, do you recall the actual plastic container? What it was?
Ziploc bag.
I'm sorry,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Ziploc bag.
Thank you.
Sir, can you pull that microphone a little closer to your mouth?
Okay, no problem.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, may I have just a moment, Judge? So, sir, how much time did you actually spend with Mr. Bashara a couple blocks over from this gas station?
You know, about an hour
Just sitting in the car?
talking
I'm sorry?
in the car, yeah.
Anybody else with you, sir?
No,
Sir, you gave some information about calling tips in to somewhere?
yes,
Okay. And is it your testimony, you were paid for that?
paid for that? No,
You weren't paid for that, correct?
no,
Wait, I want to make sure when you're saying no, you're agreeing that you were not paid for that.
no, it's something else, that's about it.
Okay. I'm sorry, Your Honor. I may have just a moment. Your Honor, may I approach the witness again?
Okay.
Sir, I'm going to hand you two other documents and ask if you can identify these documents.
I'm just looking through it.
And what are those documents, sir? What are those documents now that you've had an opportunity?
Witness statement,
And whose witness statements are those?
mine,
And are those dated, sir?
yes,
What are the dates of those witness statements?
11/19/12, 11/16.
And do you recall now making those statements?
Yep,
And you signed at the bottom of each page, did you
yes,
not?
I did.
And can we assume then, as you stated before, that you signed it because they were in fact accurate?
Yes, what I believe that is accurate.
Okay, if at any, I'm sorry, sir?
And what I believe was accurate at that time. yes.
Okay, if at any time you need to look at these, let me know, okay? I'm going to ask you some questions. And by the way, Mr. Monroe, did you get an opportunity to review either of these two statements before your testimony today?
Yes,
So you've actually reviewed at least 3 statements today?
no,
2 of them?
no.
Well, how many statements did you review prior to your testimony?
Well, not before I came in this courtroom, just a few seconds ago.
Okay, well, when did you have a chance to review these statements?
A little while ago, a while back ago,
What does that mean, sir?
a few weeks ago.
Okay. And at that time, did you review all 3 statements?
Which 3 statements are you talking about?
Well, I showed you one earlier that was dated July 10th, 2013. That was the first statement I showed you.
Okay,
Did you review that one?
July,
10th, 2013.
I can't remember right
I'm sorry, Judge, may I approach briefly? Mr. Monroe, I'm going to hand you this document back, and I'm going to suggest to you it's the one I showed you earlier. Tell me if I'm incorrect.
now. Okay, I'm understanding this.
Okay, is that one of the documents you reviewed?
Yeah,
And is it your testimony, sir, that you know that you reviewed the other 2 statements I just showed you? The ones that were in November of 2012?
no, I can't tell you that because I don't know what other 2 statements you're talking about.
Okay, well, let me ask you, sir, if you need to look at these, you just let me know, okay? Sir, do you recall at any time making a statement to the police or putting it in your witness statement that you asked Mr. Bashara about whether he had anything to do with killing Jane? Do you recall?
Objection, Your Honor, if he's going to be using to impeach, he has to show it specifically where he's pointing to in the statement and refer to what statement, since we know there's multiple statements.
But Judge, he hasn't said yes or no yet, whether he remembers it.
No, he has to, if he's choosing to impeach him with an inconsistency, because so far he hasn't shown any inconsistency.
Well, and that's my point.
He has to impeach him with an inconsistency. He has to show him the statement and go to a specific area in the statement.
Judge, I have to ask him whether he did or he didn't first, and if it's...
No, the foundation, he said on the stand, Mr. Bashara told him about confessing to the wife's crime. Then the next question is, did you ever say anything different, and point him to the statement?
Well, I don't know what he's going to
hasn't
say
done
yet.
that. He's already testified that Mr. Bashara told him about the confessing to the crime.
And I asked him, Judge, did you ever say anything different? Do you recall? I don't have an answer yet. If he says yes, then I can ask him about it. If he says no, I show him the statement. And I don't even think I'm required to show him the statement, but...
Let's make a good faith. Can we have a good faith offer that that's in the statement, that he didn't say it? See, that's what he's trying to create, something where he's trying to imply that it's in a statement that the witness did not say that, and that's not the truth.
Judge, it's cross-examination. I'm entitled to ask this witness about whether he ever made an inconsistent statement. I don't know what he's going to say, but...
It might be cross-examination, but he is using these statements to say that he said something different in these statements.
But we'll find out eventually, Judge,
No,
if he can...
counsel asks the question and the witness answers in the negative, then counsel can impeach him with a prior inconsistent statement, if in fact he does have that.
And if there is no prior income statement, can we have the question stricken because the question is not relevant?
Overruled, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. All right, do you recall the question, sir?
I don't. Try again.
Thank you, Judge. Sir, do you recall ever making a statement to anyone else that you asked Bob whether he had anything to do with his wife's murder? First off, do you recall that?
No.
Did he call, okay, did you recall asking Bob, did he confess? Why is,
That's not what the question was.
I didn't understand your question.
Okay,
I think that's
let me
what
take a step back.
again.
Sir, do you ever recall being asked whether Bob made a, quote, confession to you? Were you ever asked that question by law enforcement, anybody else?
Yes.
Do you recall, and your statement was, what?
He confessed to his wife's murder.
And that was when, sir?
Around about May or April.
statement of 11/19/2012, page 2, last question and answer, save time.
It's not this one. See, we didn't have it here, for whatever reason. We didn't have these two
So
steps.
he said June instead of May or April.
Okay. I'm not concerned about that. I'm sorry, Your Honor, let me just... Your Honor, I have nothing further, thank you.
Can you redirect?
Yes. Now, Mr. Procida just asked you about what time frame did Bob ask you, did Mr. Bashara make the confession to you, and you said it was May or June, May or April or May, correct?
Right.
Now, I'm going to show you your statement that you gave on November 19th, 2012. And it's been quite some time, is that correct?
Yes, it has.
Did you indicate in your state, did you get Bob convicted to buy cocaine? Answer, I did one time in June of 2012 when Bob confessed to me about having his wife killed. Did you say that it happened in June? Is that correct?
Yes.
So when you said April or May, it's been a long time, is that correct?
Yes, it has.
You never at any point in time said Bob didn't confess. You said Bob confessed to me in June, correct?
Yes.
Now, how this took place is there was phone contact between you and Bob in June before you hooked up,
Yes.
and you hooked up in the area of 6 Mile and Woodward
Yes.
for the purpose of giving him cocaine,
Yes.
and that's what the confession took place. I showed you people exhibit number 96, with the phone record that introduced. Do you see phone contact between you and Mr. Bashara? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 times on 6/20,
Yes.
2012.
Yes.
So, notwithstanding the fact that they're bringing up your, I'll rephrase, even though your credibility has been attacked because you're a criminal and you sell dope, the phone records show you had phone contact with Bob Bashara on that date, correct?
Yes.
Phone records ain't lying, right?
Right.
Now, you indicate that the confession was made to you sitting in the area of 6 Mile and Woodward, is that correct?
Yes.
I'm directing the court's attention to exhibit number 95. Could you put up the map? And to refresh the court's recollection, this is the sector that Mr. Bashara's phone was hitting off of on 6/20, 2012. And specifically, the time of phone calls on that exhibit, Your Honor, are 16:07. There was a call to Paul Monroe, incoming. Then Mr. Bashara's phone, according to the exhibit, is in that area on 16:13, 16, and 16:26. Now, on your phone records, do you see a call at 16:07:47?
Yes.
And are you good at reading maps? Or can you see that street there?
Yes, man.
And do you see where it comes all the way down?
Yes.
And do you see the street here?
Yes.
Woodward?
Yes.
And do those streets intersect in the blue section on that?
Yes.
Court, see that? Now, you also indicated when counsel was questioning you about receiving money for calling in the tips. Were you promised some type of money?
Yes, indirectly.
Were you promised an amount of money, $2,000?
Yes.
And what was the $2,000 supposed to be for?
Help me with certain problems and stuff I was dealing with, making tickets go away and different things.
And what did you have to do to get that $2,000?
To make a statement to the police.
For Mr. Bashara?
Right.
Did he indicate he would give you the $2,000?
Yes.
And did he give you $89 I'm showing you your statement of 7/10/13.
Judge, again, he hasn't said that he doesn't have a recollection of making the statement or not.
This is impeachment because initially he said on the cross that he wasn't paid anything, so this is impeachment.
She just asked him,
She can impeach her own witness if that's what she wants to do.
no, I guess my point is, Judge, she just asked him, and then she's gonna show him the paperwork. I think you have to ask him and wait for an answer before you offer something
What
to,
she's saying is that he already answered the question during cross-examination, and what she's doing now is offering impeachment. If what you have is an objection, it's over. You may
very
proceed.
good.
You recall when Mr. Procida asked you, had you received any money for making the statement? Remember that?
Yeah,
Okay. You had been promised $2,000, is that correct?
right.
Did you ever receive the $2,000?
No,
Did you receive, however, $89?
yeah,
Okay. So Mr. Bashara gave you $89. You promised to make your tickets go away,
Right.
and you were going to get $2,000
Right.
if you, in fact,
Yeah.
made the statement implicating April Montgomery and her new boyfriend.
right.
Now, as it relates to the cocaine, Daryl Bradford, do you know him?
Yeah,
Had you seen Mr. Bashara get cocaine from Daryl Bradford?
yeah,
And that was a paid transaction, is that correct?
yeah,
Had you seen Mr. Bashara get cocaine from James Smith?
yeah,
And that was a paid transaction.
yeah.
Now, Mr. Procida asked you the question that you weren't really concerned about committing a felony by getting the cocaine, is that correct?
Yeah,
Mr. Bashara wasn't concerned about committing a felony by getting the cocaine from you, was he?
no, it wasn't.
And I'm showing you exhibit number 95. And do you see your phone number on there?
Yeah,
And is your phone number line number 1?
yeah,
Now, counsel has made much of the fact that you might not be credible because you are a dope dealer or you sell dope or you're a criminal. You remember that line of questioning?
yeah,
That didn't stop Mr. Bashara from calling you 65 times, did it?
no,
So no matter how incredible you are, no matter what they want to say about you, apparently Mr. Bashara had no problem.
Objection, Your Honor, if he's going to testify to what my client's thinking, no, he can testify to what he's thinking, but the editorializing,
Sustained.
Okay, I'll rephrase. When Mr. Bashara called you over 65 times, when he initiated over 65 phone calls to you over the period of April 27 to 6/26/2012, in any of those phone calls, did Mr. Bashara ever say to you, "Oh, Paul, I have trepidations of dealing with you because you are a criminal"? Did he ever say anything like that?
no,
He said, "Oh, Paul, I really shouldn't be associating with you because you're a lowlife and you're not credible." Did he ever say anything like that?
no,
When he was having his investigator call you, and when he was taking you down to David Graham's office to give a statement, did he ever say, "Oh, you're the lowest form of life. Nobody can believe you. Be gone, Paul Monroe"? Did he ever say anything like that?
no,
So when he wanted you to say what he wanted you to say, you was good as gold, right?
right,
And now when you came out and told everybody the truth that he confessed to you, now you're the lowest form of life, right?
right.
Nothing further.
sir, let's talk about this $89 for a minute. When did you get this $89 from Mr. Bashara?
I know I have received, I can't tell you the exact day. and
Well,
time and
we've been throwing around these dates of June, and the prosecutor asked you about some phone calls June 20th, right?
all. Right,
Was it about that time?
I can't tell you that.
You don't have any recollection
No,
of when you got this $89?
not that particular time.
And you were upset because you didn't get the rest of the money, right?
Yeah, I was a little thief.
So, when was it you were supposed to get that other money?
I don't know.
So instead, you're giving him gifts of cocaine instead, while you're mad.
gifts of cocaine.
Well, you said you
Well, if I can't regulate the time, I can't put that time together and mix it up like that.
fair enough, thank you.
Nothing further than
Thank you,
this
sir.
witness,
You
Your
may
Honor.
step down.
Do you have an extra copy of her statement? In case I need it. A second copy of her statement. In case I need it from my client.
And could you please give your name to the gentleman seated there?
Yes, my name's Joy Jolly.
Please raise your right hand, Ms. Jones. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please have a seat. Pull the microphone up to you, please. You may begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Patrick Musk on behalf of the people. Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm going to ask you to keep your voice up so we can all hear, okay?
Okay.
State your name again for the record.
Joy Jolly.
Ma'am, I'm going to draw your attention to the gentleman seated in front of me in the green jumpsuit. Do you know him?
Yes, I do.
For the record, what's his name?
Bob Bashara.
How long have you known him?
Since 2000.
Since the year 2000? You have to say yes or no for the record?
Yes.
Okay. Do you live in the same general area as Mr. Bashara used to live?
Yes, I did. I've moved.
Okay. Could you tell me, were you a member of the Lockmore Club with Mr.
Yes.
Bashara?
That's where I met Bob. Yes, that's where I met Bob and Jane.
Oh, okay. So you knew Miss Bashara as well?
Yes.
Do you have children roughly the same age as their children?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I'm going to draw your attention to, do you remember, first of all, do you remember the last time you saw Miss Jane Bashara alive?
It was at a Michigan game.
Do you
in
know approximately what year?
Yeah, it was in September of 2010, I believe.
Okay. Now, I'm going to draw your attention to a home in the Grosse Pointe area. At some point, were you selling a home in 2011 in the Grosse Pointe area?
Yes, it was my parents' home.
And what was the address of that home?
8 Crestwood, Grosse Pointe Shores.
Were you at the home during an estate sale or some form of real estate action?
Yes, I was there.
What was it? What was going on that day you were there?
There was a showing at the house.
Oh, a showing? Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm sorry, you have to say yes or no. For the
Yeah,
record.
I'm sorry. Yes, there was a showing at the house.
Okay, thank you. Do you recall seeing anybody you knew at the showing?
Yes, I saw Bob.
The defendant here?
Yes.
And could you tell us, was he alone or was he with anyone?
He was with the realtor and a woman.
Do you remember who the realtor was at the time?
No, I don't.
And did you know at the time who the woman was?
No, I didn't.
Was the woman Jane Bashara?
No, it wasn't.
At some point, did you ever see the woman in the media and you were able to associate a name with a face?
Yes, I saw her on TV. It was Rachel Gillette.
Okay. Do you recall approximately when you saw her on TV and made that connection?
Well, it was after Jane was killed.
So sometime in 2012, is that fair?
Yes.
Okay, so again, moving you back to the 2011 at 8 Crestwood in Grosse Pointe, you were selling the house for approximately how much was the house listed for, if you recall?
I think it was 220,000.
All right.
I don't remember.
And when you saw Bob with, who you now know as Rachel Gillette, did you say anything to Bob?
Yes.
Do you
Well-
recall what you said?
Well, when he walked in the door, he said, "Joy, what are you doing here?" And I said, "This is my parents' home and we're selling it." And I said to him, "What are you doing here?" And he said, I'm helping a friend who needs to find a house."
Okay. Did you have any other further conversation with him that you recall?
No, not at that time.
At some point, I assume then you left that address, is that correct?
Right, I left.
At some point, did you call Mr. Bashara later that day or perhaps the next day?
I believe I called him the next morning.
Okay. I don't want to get into too much hearsay, but was there a reason you called him the next morning?
Yeah, my daughter had called me that night crying that she was at the Excalibur bar and...
Objection, Judge, this is going to be hearsay.
Now, for the truth of the matter, sir, but why
Really,
call the defendant?
and I'm trying to keep it tight on that topic.
I think you laid the proper foundation. Proceed.
Thank you. Go ahead, ma'am.
Yeah, so my daughter Alyssa had called crying that somebody had seen her at the bar and said that her grandparents' house, the house that I was in, had a lot of furniture and it looked like it was a warehouse. And so I asked her, "Well, who said that?" And she said, "Just a friend of somebody at the bar." And I immediately said to her, "Well, it was probably Bob Bashara because he was through Naomi and Grandpa's house last night."
So regardless who said what about the
Yeah.
condition of the home, you thought it was Mr. Bashara and that caused you to call him, is that correct?
Right.
Did you leave a message? Did you speak to him or leave a message?
No, I actually purposely left a message on the home line in hopes that Jane would hear because I called and I said, "Bob, there was a rumor that somebody spoke about my parents' house and you don't really know the situation and that would be like me telling everybody that you were having an affair with the woman that you brought through the house."
Did Mr. Bashara call you back
No, he showed up at my house
that day?
that day.
When Mr. Bashara showed up at your home, was he alone or was he with anybody?
No, he was alone.
And did you speak with him?
Yes.
What, if anything, did he say?
Well, he said, "No, I didn't say anything," and I just said, "Come on, Bob, it would be too much of a coincidence that you had come through the house and this was said." And we just kind of asked what was going on in each other's lives because we hadn't seen each other in a year. And then he finally did say, "Well, maybe I did say something." And he left saying, "If you need help moving, when you sell the house, if you need me to help, if you need any help moving furniture, boxes, I'd be glad to help you."
Specifically, did you ask him who the woman was when he came over and was talking to you
Yeah,
face
I
to face?
did. I asked him who was that woman, and he said she was just a friend. She needed help. She needed help finding a house, so he was just helping her out.
All right. I'm going to move forward a little bit. First of all, just for some background information, could you tell the court who Jim Wilson is?
My ex-husband.
Ex-husband.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. Could you tell the court approximately when, strike that. On January 25th of 2012, around 12 p.m., did you receive a text from your husband regarding the murder of Jane Bashara?
I did.
And
Yes.
I'm going to ask you what was said so I can understand what you did next, but what was the nature of the text message, if you recall?
I don't understand, Judge.
Is there an objection?
Yes,
What is it?
it's hearsay.
It is, sustain.
It is. What I'm asking is a state of mind exception so I can understand what she did next. To give some
statement that was made
context.
that it caused you to do something.
Ma'am, when you received a text message from your ex-husband, is that correct, about the death of Ms. Bashara?
Yes.
As a result of that, did you do anything?
I don't recall.
Okay. Ma'am, I'm going to ask you about a conversation. First of all, have you ever had a conversation with Jane Bashara about your sister and the closeness of your relationship with your sister in comparisons to Ms. Bashara's relationship?
Yeah, we did.
Okay. Specifically, I'm going to try to keep this as narrow as I can for the court. Did Ms. Bashara make any comments about her relationship and the deterioration of her relationship during that conversation?
Yes, she did.
All right. Could you tell the court what Mrs. Bashara told you?
Basically, she saw the relationship that I had with my sister. We all played tennis together, and she said that she also had a sister that she was very close to and looked like her, and unfortunately, they no longer spoke. And when I asked her why, she said, well, she had been through counseling, and it was because Bob wasn't clean.
For the record, when you said that, you put your fingers up with air quotes. Is that correct?
Right, and that's how she did it. She
Right.
used air quotes saying that he wasn't clean.
Did she explain that any further?
No, and I didn't ask.
Were you aware of whether or not Mr. Bashara was using drugs during this time period?
No.
You hesitate. Why is that?
Well, there was an occasion where my children found marijuana in my husband's.
Judge, if she doesn't have personal knowledge of this.
Did your children bring some marijuana to you?
Yes, they did.
Okay. Could you describe to the court, please, your ex-husband's relationship with Robert Bashara?
They were very good friends.
Do you know how long they were friends? How many years?
Since about the year 2000.
And did they go on social trips?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did they, for example, did they ever go to Las Vegas together, if you know?
Yes, they did.
Do you know if they spoke on the phone regularly?
Yes, I'm sure they did.
And did I ask you how many years they were friends? I'm sorry.
Well, we all met in the year 2000 when we joined Lackmore.
So during the 10 or 12 years that you knew the family, your husband and Mr. Bashara were friends as well?
Right.
All right. Where does Mr. Wilson currently live?
Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Approximately when did he relocate to Florida?
July of 2009.
Thank you. May I just have one moment, Your Honor? I think that's it. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
We have no questions, Jerry. Thank you, ma'am. You may step in.
We do have another witness we think we can get in today, Judge.
Okay.
Judge, we do approach very quickly.
Okay.
We have a 5-minute recess.
5 minutes? Okay. Court will be in recess till 3:25.
Thank you.
I don't think so. to it.